Every year, millions of people travel across the world to witness an extraordinary celebration, one that doesn't fear death but embraces it with color, music, and love. But what if death was not an ending? What if it was a reunion? In Mexico, there is a time each year when the boundary between the living and the dead is believed to dissolve. Streets glow with candlelight, homes are filled with flowers and memories, and families prepare to welcome back those who have already passed on. This is Day of the Dead, known in Spanish as Dia de los Muertos, a festival that transforms grief into gratitude and remembrance into celebration. Today, we'll uncover the history, meaning, and hidden stories behind one of the world's most fascinating and emotionally powerful festivals. Day of the Dead takes place in Mexico and is celebrated every year from late October through early November, with the most important dates falling on November the 1st and November the 2nd. It is one of the most iconic festivals in the world, attracting visitors from every continent, not because it is loud or extravagant, but because it speaks to something deeply human, the desire to remember, to honor, and to stay connected with those we love. Unlike many festivals that last for a single day, Dia de los Muertos unfolds over several meaningful stages. November the 1st is dedicated to the souls of deceased children, known as Dia de los Innocents. November the 2nd honors the spirits of adults who have passed away. During these days, death is not hidden away. It is spoken about openly, gently, even joyfully. Across the country, families build ofrendas or altars inside their homes and in cemeteries. These altars are decorated with photographs, candles, food, flowers, and personal items that once belonged to the departed. Each object carries meaning. Each offering is an invitation, guiding spirits back to the world of the living. What makes Day of the Dead truly unique is the way it redefines our relationship with death. In many countries, death is associated with silence, darkness, and fear. In Mexico, during Dia de los Muertos, death is colorful. It is musical. It is remembered with smiles as much as with tears. Families gather not to mourn alone, but to reconnect, sharing stories, laughter, and meals in honor of those who are no longer physically present but remain alive in memory. The festival is celebrated throughout Mexico, but certain regions are especially famous for their traditions. In major cities, public celebrations and parades bring together art, music, and modern interpretations of ancient customs. In smaller towns and rural communities, the atmosphere becomes more intimate, with long nights spent in sentiment, surrounded by candles and quiet reflection. One of the most recognizable symbols of Day of the Dead is the sugar skull, brightly decorated, often bearing names of loved ones. These skulls are not meant to be frightening. Instead, they serve as playful reminders that death is a natural part of life. Another powerful symbol is the marigold flower, believed to guide spirits with its vibrant color and scent. Pots of marigold petals are laid from doorways to altars, creating a symbolic bridge between worlds. Food plays an essential role as well. Traditional dishes, and especially pan de muerto, a sweet bread shaped to resemble bones, are prepared both for the living and for the spirits believed to return. Beyond its beauty and symbolism, Day of the Dead holds global cultural importance. In 2008, UNESCO recognized Dia de los Muertos as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity, honoring it as a living tradition that preserves identity, history, and spiritual values. Today, The festival's influence has spread far beyond Mexico, inspiring celebrations around the world. Yet, at its heart, Day of the Dead remains deeply personal, a time for families to pause, remember, and reconnect across generations. Ultimately, Dia de los Muertos is not about death itself. It is about love that survives loss, about memory that refuses to fade, and about the belief that those we have lost are never truly gone as long as we remember them. The origins of Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos, date back more than 3,000 years, long before the arrival of Europeans in the Americas. Originally, it began as a religious and cultural celebration practiced by ancient indigenous civilizations of Mesoamerica, including the Aztecs, Maya, Purépecha, and Totonac peoples. For these cultures, death was not viewed as an end, but as a natural continuation of life, a necessary step in the eternal cycle of existence. Among the Aztecs, one of the most influential civilizations in Mexico history, death held deep spiritual meaning. They believed that the fate of the soul after death depended not on how a person lived, but on how they died. Most people were believed to travel to Mictlan, the underworld ruled by the god Mictlantecuhtli, and his wife Mictlantecuhtli, the Lady of the Death. According to the legend, Mictlantecuhtli watched over the bones of the deceased and presided over ancient festivals honoring the dead. These rituals were not somber or fearful. Instead, they were celebratory acts meant to honor ancestors, remember their lives, and maintain a bond between the living and the spiritual world. These early ceremonies often took place during the Aztec month of Mictlantecuhtli, which roughly corresponded to the modern months of July or August. During this time, families would make offerings of food, flowers, and objects to honor deceased relatives, believing that their spirits could temporarily return to enjoy these gifts. Everything changed in the early 16th century when Spanish conquistadors arrived in Mexico. With them came Catholicism, a religion that viewed death, heaven, and the afterlife through a very different lens. Spanish missionaries attempted to suppress indigenous rituals, seeing them as pagan practices. However, they soon realized that these traditions were too deeply rooted in local culture to erase completely. Instead of eliminating them, the Spanish chose to merge indigenous beliefs with Catholic traditions. Over time, ancient rituals honoring the dead were blended with All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day, two important dates in the Catholic calendar dedicated to remembering the deceased. This fusion created a new, hybrid celebration, one that preserved indigenous spiritual concepts while adopting Christian symbolism. This cultural blending is what shaped Dia de los Muertos into the festival we recognize today. By the 18th and 19th centuries, the tradition has spread across Mexico, evolving differently in each region. Rural communities maintained older customs, while urban areas began adding artistic and theatrical elements. One of the most significant moments in the festival's modern history came in the early 20th century, during the aftermath of the Mexican Revolution. At a time when Mexico was redefining its national identity, artists and intellectuals embraced Day of the Dead as a symbol of resistance, heritage, and cultural pride. During this period, the image of the calavera, the skull, became central to the celebration. Far from being grim or frightening, calaveras were portrayed as humorous, elegant, and playful. The most famous of these figures is La Catrina, a skeletal woman dressed in fine European clothing created by Mexican artist Jose Guadalupe Posada. La Catrina was originally a satirical figure mocking wealthy elites who attempted to reject their indigenous roots. Over time, she became an iconic symbol of Dia de los Muertos, representing the idea that death comes for everyone, rich or poor, powerful or humble. As the 20th century progressed, Dia de los Muertos continued to evolve. Public celebrations grew larger, parades were introduced, and artistic expressions flourished. Schools began teaching children about the tradition, ensuring that each new generation understood its meaning and history. In 2008, the festival received global recognition when UNESCO declared Day of the Dead an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. This acknowledgement confirmed that Mexicans had known for centuries that Dia de los Muertos is not just a festival, but a living cultural practice that connects past, present, and future. Today, Day of the Dead exists as a powerful blend of ancient spirituality and modern expression. While its roots lie deep in indigenous cosmology, its message remains universal. It reminds us that death is not something to fear or ignore, but something to understand, honor, and accept. Through memory, ritual, and storytelling, Dia de los Muertos allows the living and the dead to meet once more, if only for a brief moment each year. For the local people of Mexico, Day of the Dead is far more than entertainment or a colorful public celebration. It is deeply spiritual tradition that touches the very core of family, identity, memory, and belief. At its heart, Dia de los Muertos represents a unique worldview, one that refuses to separate life from death instead of treating death as something distant or frightening. Mexican culture embraces it as a natural continuation of existence. The festival offers a moment each year when the living and the dead are believed to reunite, not in sorrow but in love. For many families, this belief is not symbolic. It is deeply personal. Parents speak to children about grandparents they never met. Stories are retold. Photographs are cleaned and carefully placed on altars. Favorite foods are prepared once again, not only for those still alive, but for those remembered. In these moments, memory becomes a form of presence. One of the most powerful cultural values embodied by Day of the Dead is family unity. Across Mexico, families travel long distances to return to their hometowns. Generations gather around shared traditions that have been practiced for centuries. Elders teach younger members how to build an ofrenda, explaining the meaning behind every object, why candles are lit, why flowers are placed, and why certain foods are offered. Through this process, traditions are not merely preserved, they are lived. Another essential value expressed during Dia de los Muertos is gratitude. Rather than focusing on loss, the festival emphasizes thankfulness for the time shared with loved ones. It is a moment to honor what was given, not what was taken away. This perspective transforms grief into remembrance, allowing families to heal while staying connected to their past. Spiritual symbolism is woven into every element of the celebration. The ofrenda or altar serves as a sacred bridge between worlds. Each item placed upon it holds meaning. Candles represent light and guidance for returning souls. Water quenches their thirst after a long journey. Soul symbolizes purification. Photographs anchor spirits to their families, while personal belongings remind them they are remembered. Perhaps the most striking symbol is the marigold flower, known as symbolism. Its bright orange color and strong scent are believed to guide spirits back to the world of the living. Paths of marigold petals often lead from doorways to altars, symbolizing the journey between realms. Religion also plays a significant role in shaping the spiritual identity of Day of the Dead. For many Mexicans, the festival represents a harmonious blend of indigenous beliefs and Catholic faiths. Prayers may be said alongside ancient rituals. Churches hold masses for the dead, while cemeteries become places of both reverence and celebration. This fusion reflects a broader cultural truth. Mexican spirituality is inclusive, layered, and deeply connected to ancestry. Emotionally, Dia de los Muertos offers something rare, a socially accepted space for grief and remembrance. In many societies, death is uncomfortable to discuss, and mourning is often expected to fade quickly. In contrast, Day of the Dead encourages people to remember openly and repeatedly, year after year. Grief is not hidden, tears are not rushed, memories are welcomed. For children, this approach shapes a healthier understanding of death. Instead of fear, they learn familiarity. Instead of silence, they hear stories. Death becomes part of life's narrative, not its end. Communities also play a central role in the emotional significance of the festival. Entire neighborhoods collaborate to decorate streets, prepare public altars, and clean cemeteries. These shared efforts strengthen social bonds and reinforce a collective identity. In these moments, Dia de los Muertos becomes a reminder that remembrance is not only personal, it is communal. Artistic expression further deepens the festival's cultural meaning, from hand-painted skulls to poetry known as calaveras literarias. Creativity is used to reflect on mortality with humor and insight. These playful expressions do not diminish death's seriousness. Instead, they humanize it. By laughing at death, the festival strips it of its power to intimidate. At a deeper spiritual level, Day of the Dead represents continuity. It affirms the belief that relationships do not end with death, that love, memory, and identity transcend physical absence. This belief provides comfort not through denial, but through acceptance. In a rapidly changing world, Dia de los Muertos also acts as the cultural anchor. It preserves indigenous heritage, reinforces national identity, and resists cultural erasure. For many Mexicans, celebrating the festival is an act of honoring ancestors who endured colonization, hardship, and transformation. Ultimately, Day of the Dead is a celebration of life itself. By honoring the dead, the living are reminded to cherish their own lives more deeply. The festival teaches that remembrance is a form of love, and that as long as someone is remembered, they are never truly gone. One of the most important rituals during Day of the Dead is the creation of the ofrenda, a ceremonial altar built to honor deceased loved ones. This ritual usually begins days, sometimes weeks, before the festival itself. Families can clean their homes, gather photographs, and carefully select items that once belonged to those who have passed away. The process is slow and deliberate, filled with conversation, memory, and quiet reflection. The ofrenda is traditionally built in layers, each representing different aspects of existence. Candles are placed to light the way for returning spirits. Water is offered to quench their thirst after a long journey. Salt symbolizes purification, while incense, often copper, cleanses the space and invites spiritual presence. Another essential ritual takes place in cemeteries. On the nights of November the 1st and 2nd, families gather at gravities, bringing flowers, candles, food, and music. Graves are cleaned and decorated, sometimes transformed into glowing spaces of color and warmth. Rather than silence, cemeteries fill with voices, laughter, prayer, and song. In many communities, people spend the entire night beside the graves of loved ones, believing that this is the moment when spirits return to visit. These vigils are deeply emotional, blending mourning with celebration, solitude with togetherness. For indigenous communities, traditional prayers and ancestral rituals are still performed, preserving ancient spiritual practices that predate colonial influence. These rituals reaffirm the belief that death is not a separation, but a transformation. Participants wear elaborate costumes that symbolize the festival's playful yet profound relationship with death. The most iconic costumes are inspired by calaveras or skulls. Faces are painted to resemble skeletal figures, often decorated with vibrant colors, flowers, and intricate patterns. These designs are not meant to frighten, but to express individuality, humor, and beauty. One of the most recognizable figures is La Catrina, a skeletal woman dressed in elegant clothing. People dress as La Catrina to symbolize the idea that death equalizes everyone, regardless of wealth or social status. Her image blends satire, artistry, and cultural identity. Decorations extend far beyond costumes. Streets, homes, and public spaces are filled with papel picado, delicate cut paper banners that flutter in the air. These decorations represent the fragility of life and the presence of the wind, one of the four elements believed to be present during the festival. Altars glow with candles, marigold flowers, and symbolic objects, while school motifs appear everywhere, from storefronts to public art installations. Each decoration reinforces the festival's message. Death is not hidden, but embraced as part of life. Music fills the streets as traditional instruments and modern rhymes come together during Day of the Dead. In many regions, mariachi bands perform songs that celebrate love, memory, and longing. These performances often take place in cemeteries, where musicians play beside graves as families listen, sing, and remember. Folk songs known as corridos and traditional melodies echo through town squares, while church bells ring in remembrance of the dead. In urban areas, modern music blends with traditional sounds, creating a dynamic atmosphere that reflects both heritage and contemporary culture. Dance is another essential expression. In some communities, ritual dances reunite ancient stories of life, death, and rebirth. Performers wear masks representing spirits, ancestors, or mythical figures, moving in rhythmic patterns passed down through generations. Public performances, parades, and theatrical reenactments have become increasingly popular, especially in large cities. These events often combine dance, costumes, and storytelling to retell the myths and history of Dia de los Muertos in visually powerful ways. Through music and movement, emotions cannot be spoken, are expressed: joy, sorrow, longing, and gratitude all at once. No festival is complete without food, and Day of the Dead is deeply connected to culinary tradition. Food is prepared not only to be eaten, but to be offered. Families cook dishes that the deceased loved most, believing that spirits return to enjoy the aroma and essence of the meals. One of the most iconic foods is pan de muerto, a sweet bread often decorated with bone-shaped designs. Its round shape represents the cycle of life, while the bones symbolize the deceased. This bread is placed on altars and shared along family members, reinforcing the connection between living and dead. Sugar skulls are another famous treat, decorated with colorful icing and sometimes inscribed with names. These skulls represent remembrance and the playful acceptance of mortality. Traditional meals such as tamales, mole, atole, and regional specialities vary across Mexico, reflecting local culture and family heritage. Drinks like hot chocolate or fermented beverages are often included as offerings. Food during Dia de los Muertos is not about excess, it is about memory. Each dish tells a story, carries a personal connection, and transforms nourishment into remembrance. The most breathtaking moment of Day of the Dead happens at night. As darkness falls, thousands of candles are lit across cemeteries, homes, and streets. The glow creates an atmosphere that feels timeless, as if the boundary between the worlds has softened. In these moments, silence and sound coexist. Some families pray quietly, others share stories or sing. Laughter mixes with tears. Time seems to slow, allowing space for reflection and connection. In recent years, large-scale parades and public celebrations have become highlight events, particularly in major cities. These parades feature massive floats, dancers, musicians, and performers dressed as skeletons and mythical figures. While modern in form, they still carry ancient symbolism. Yet, for many Mexicans, the most meaningful highlight is not public, it is personal. It is the moment a family stands together before the altar, remembering a loved one. The moment a candle flickers beside a photograph. The moment when family feels alive. These quiet, intimate experiences are the true heart of Day of the Dead. Here are some fascinating facts you may not know about Day of the Dead. For example, did you know that Dia de los Muertos is not Mexican Halloween? Although the two celebrations take place around the same time of the year, their meanings are completely different. Halloween focuses on fear, honor, and the supernatural, while Day of the Dead is centered on remembrance, love, and spiritual connection. Confusing the two is considered a cultural misunderstanding, and for many Mexicans, it diminishes the deep significance of the tradition. Another surprising fact is not everyone is honored on the same day. November the 1st is traditionally dedicated to deceased children, known as angelitos, while November the 2nd is reserved for adults. Families carefully adjust their altars depending on who they are honoring, choosing toys, sweets, or shield-like objects for young souls and more mature offerings for adults. There are also unspoken rules and cultural taboos surrounding the festival. One important rule is respect. While public celebrations may appear festive and colorful, mocking the tradition or treating altars as mere decorations is considered disrespectful. Taking objects from an altar, touching offerings without permission, or using sacred symbols purely for fashion can offend local communities. A little-known tradition involves sleeping near the altar. In some rural areas, families believe that sleeping close to the ofrenda allows them to feel closer to visiting spirits. Others leave doors and windows open at night, symbolically welcoming the dead back into the home. There are also records and unusual events associated with the festival. In certain cities, thousands of people gather to build massive public altars, some stretching several stories high. Entire cemeteries can be illuminated by tens of thousands of candles, creating one of the largest collective remembrance events in the world. Another hidden detail lies in the food. Although offerings are placed for spirits, the belief is that spirits consumed only the essence of the food, not the physical meal. After the festival, families often eat the food together, believing its flavor has faded, marking the spirit's visit as complete. Perhaps the most meaningful secret of Day of the Dead is this. The festival is not about remembering the dead ones, but remembering them every year, ensuring that no one is ever truly forgotten. Every year, Day of the Dead attracts millions of visitors from around the world, making it one of Mexico's most significant cultural tourism events. Major destinations such as Mexico City, Oaxaca, Michoacan, or Puebla experience a dramatic rise in tourism during late October and near November. Hotels often reach full capacity weeks in advance, and flights into major cities sell out quickly as travelers seek to experience the festival firsthand. The festival generates hundreds of millions of dollars in tourism revenue annually. Local economies benefit through hotel bookings, transportation services, restaurants, guided tours, artisan markets, and cultural events. Small businesses, especially local artisans who create paper picado, sugar skulls, candles, and traditional clothing, see a significant increase in income during the season. Food vendors and local farmers also benefit as demand rises for traditional ingredients used in festival dishes such as pan de muerto, marigold flowers, chocolates, and corn-based foods. Beyond direct economic impact, Day of the Dead plays a powerful role in cultural branding and global influence. The festival has become one of Mexico's most recognizable cultural exports, featured in international films, documentaries, exhibitions, and educational programs. Its imagery and symbolism have influenced arts, fashion, and popular culture worldwide. However, this global popularity has also sparked discussions about cultural preservation versus commercialization. Mexican communities and cultural organizations actively work to protect the festival's authenticity, ensuring that tourism supports local traditions rather than replacing them. UNESCO recognition of Dia de los Muertos as an intangible cultural heritage has helped reinforce efforts to preserve its spiritual and cultural integrity. Importantly, the economic impact of the festival is not only financial, it is social. Tourism has encouraged younger generations to reconnect with traditions, learn ancestral practices, and take pride in their cultural heritage. In this way, Day of the Dead sustains not just local economies, but cultural identity itself. Ultimately, Dia de los Muertos proves that a festival rooted in remembrance and spirituality can also be a powerful force for economic growth and global cultural understanding without losing its soul. If you plan to experience Day of the Dead in person, here are a few important tips to help you enjoy the festival respectfully, safely, and meaningfully. First, timing is everything. The best time to visit Mexico for Dia de los Muertos is from late October to early November, with the peak days being November the 1st and November the 2nd. If you want to experience the full atmosphere from altar preparations to cemetery vigils, it's recommended to arrive several days early. This allows you to see how communities gradually prepare for the return of spirits. Because this is one of the busiest travel seasons in Mexico, booking accommodations early is essential. Hotels in popular destinations such as Mexico City, Oaxaca, and Michoacan often sell out weeks or even months in advance. Transportation prices may also increase, so planning ahead can save both money and stress. Next, it's important to prepare thoughtfully. Pack comfortable clothing and shoes, as many celebrations involve long walks, standing, or spending extended time outdoors, especially at night. Weather can vary depending on the region, so light layers are ideal. If you plan to visit cemeteries, modest clothing is recommended out of respect. You may also want to bring a small flashlight for nighttime visits, as candlelight is beautiful but sometimes limited in darker areas. Understanding cultural etiquette is one of the most important aspects of Experience Day of the Dead. Remember that it is a deeply personal and spiritual time for many families. Always ask permission before taking photos of altars, people, or cemetery gatherings. Some moments are sacred and private, even if they appear festive. Avoid touching or moving offerings on altars. These items are placed with intention and meaning. Treat every altar as a sacred space, not a tourism attraction. When participating in public events, observe first, listen, watch, and learn before joining in. Respectful curiosity is always welcome. Disrespectful behavior is not. In terms of safety, large crowds are common during the festival, especially in city centers and popular tourist areas. Keep personal belongings secure. Stay aware of your surroundings and follow local advice regarding safe areas and times. Finally, approach Day of the Dead with the right mindset. It is not a spectacle, it is a shared act of remembrance. Visitors who take time to understand its meaning often find the experience deeply moving, even transformative. By traveling with respect, patience, and openness, you'll not only witness a beautiful tradition, you'll become part of it. Day of the Dead is more than just a celebration. It is a powerful expression of culture, identity, and love that transcends time. It teaches us that death does not erase connection, that memory is a form of presence, and that honoring those who came before us helps us understand who we are today. Through candles, flowers, food, and stories, Dia de los Muertos transforms loss into remembrance and grief into gratitude. It reminds us that life is precious, not because it ends, but because it is shared. Would you like to experience this festival one day? Would you walk among candlelit graves, listen to stories passed down through generation, and feel the quiet power of remembrance? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join World Festival Stories as we continue exploring the most incredible festivals around the world, where culture, history, and human connection come alive.